This guy is my favorite. I'm not fully sure what I called my favorite originally, but this guy's my favorite. Jarlaxle Bainray is quite possibly the best written villain that I've ever seen in my life. He can very easily oppose the party in a number of ways, make them dislike him, and yet still seem like a deep, complex character that really is just out for themselves. But ultimately he has good motivations at heart, even though they do conflict with the characters in the campaign, which will then result in conflict. Jarlaxle is much more ambiguous in the way that he carries himself and the way that he wants to get what he wants, which is what makes him a villain. He's okay with shooting a bunch of people if he gets the money. That's a big loaded statement, and I think that pretty much summarizes what he is. However, there's more to him than that. So stick around for Waterdeep, which I talk about a lot. I don't run it anymore because I may or may not have sent my players all the way to the other side of the world halfway through the campaign because, I don't know, I didn't feel like we were that invested in the main big Waterdeep storyline. Maybe we were, and I've just forgotten that we had. In any case, today is about Jarlaxle Bainray. He is still a prevalent force in my campaign. I'll talk a little bit more about that in depth in this one. Warning to my Sunday game. This has major spoiler content for your campaign. Turn the video off. Even the guy who's going to be running it soon, turn it off. Okay, now that they're gone, I can continue. Yeah, they better have left. So, Jarlaxle Bainray, it says here, you know, drow, swashbuckler kind of guy, typical, you know, dashing rogue sort of archetype, except way more ambiguous than even the most of them. I think he's like chaotic neutral or something. Yep, that's kind of the alignment that I've made most of the drow in my world. Not like lawful evil or anything like that. Chaotic neutral. I think it just makes more sense. They're kind of out for themselves in comparison. So, Jarlaxle is in Waterdeep Dragon Heist for one big old reason that's pretty simple. It does require some knowledge of the general setting and kind of the vibe of Faerun, but I'll explain that to you. So he wants the 500,000 dragons to buy his city or town, Luskan, which he is the secret leader of, into the Lord's Alliance, which is the most prestigious place. Any settlement in the Lord's Alliance is probably doing something right. So he wants to be part of that group. And they are kind of offer like protection for each other and stuff like that, so he wants to get that. He also doesn't mind getting that dragon staff that he's heard of, that the adult gold dragon has. He'll definitely be nicking that because he wants to also use that for extra leverage, just in case, you know, they need an extra, you know, hey, you want this as well? Because it's very powerful. He is actually using his hat of disguise taken on the guise of a dude called Zardar Zord, who is a sailor dude who runs a traveling carnival. I wasn't 100% sure if that was true because I did it in mine, but I kind of twisted it a little bit. So yeah, I like that. He's traveling along on his ship, which is the dungeon that is basically hidden in plain sight. My party probably still don't even know that that ship was a dungeon until I dropped the map down and said, here's the layout. And then they were like, the book gives you a layout? And I'm like, yeah. So Jarlaxle is at heart a massive adventurer. He loves the strife, he loves the drama, he loves the emotion, he loves crushing his enemies and seeing himself win, which is kind of why he makes such a good villain, because he'll enjoy messing with the party. He won't just like take the stone and leave. He'll probably make a big show of it. He'll probably want to prove that he's better than them as well. He'll stick around, he'll taunt them, he'll annoy the shit out of them. My party actually attempted to fight him for a bit before he basically held up one of the party members and said, I will stab if anyone makes a single move. And the party member was like on 1 hit point. So yeah, they kind of had to give up after that. They might have been winning. Jarlaxle is very 50-50 on his combat, depending on what sort of party you have. And with mine, not that great. So, Jarlaxle is he's kind of like, I think, like, imagine the, you know, sexy female pirate sort of dude, sort of chick even. That's what Jarlaxle is, because women rule in the drow system. It's a matriarchy. So he's kind of like, the fact that he is this high up in a leadership title, he must feel high off his tits because of it. Like, whew, that is a big achievement for the Drow Society. In any case, I don't have a whole buttload to say about his dungeon, his layer of operations, if you will, because most of it is all real normal looking until the party properly gets into it. I'll kind of describe some of the basics. There's some machinery on the ship / magic enchantment / something there. It's apparently figureheads on his ship that create an illusion that the entire ship is normal and that all the drow people are actually people, like humans and stuff. That disguise will be dropped if they manage to destroy them, etc., etc. There are 3 ships in this. They're the Heartbreaker, Hellraiser, and Eyecatcher. It's a pretty cool thing. And then there's also a submarine underneath that the actual stuff is at. That's kind of where they hide everything that they need to hide. The rest of it is all a pretty well covered up lie. Most of the ships are pretty devoid of any proof that they would be there. Certainly after some investigation of a party that is suspicious of the area, they will probably begin to pick up stuff. But if just a bunch of guards were to walk in there for no reason, they wouldn't really pick anything up. It's a decent ruse. There is all sorts of stuff there that, you know, a regular one would have. There's cargo holds, there's a cargo elevator, there's the head, there's the cabins, there's the armory, there's a cargo hold as well, there's a flippin' lower cargo hold. It's a full-on ship. And honestly, your players might get a little disappointed while they explore this dungeon, not finding that much, because unless they found the submarine, which is where all the stuff is, they're not going to have much else to look for. Yeah. And that's my problem with this. It's a greatly constructed place, don't get me wrong. Maybe not for running, like, the game. They might go through a whole session without really finding anything in here if they're the type of party that likes to take it slow. Although they can just go all out and, like, slam a figurehead and, like, break it, and then they've got the dungeon on their hands. But who thinks of that when they don't even know fully what it is yet? It is pretty cool that it has stuff like the creature pens. There's something there to interact with. Like, they can let loose stuff. They can mess around with the cargo elevators and the like. This is a dungeon that requires some creativity to make fun on the part of the players. So maybe encourage that out of character. Talk to them about this place as they're starting to explore. Like, this place is kind of desolate. If you're thinking of trying to find something or interact with this place in a bit more of a meaningful way, what do you think you'd want to do? Provoke that question for them, it will get them thinking. So, let's talk about Jarlaxle in terms of statistics. He's the most powerful rogue in the universe. That's a pretty good summary of him. The only thing he's lacking, in my opinion, is hit points. Other than that, he's great. There is a real bad imbalance going on with some of this stat block, which I'll talk about. And pretty soon, actually, yeah, I'll bring this up now, because it's the first thing that you see. Armor class is 24. That's a problem. They shouldn't be fighting him until like level 7 or 8 at least, I know. But still, that's way too high. They really wanted him to have a lot of AC. +3 leather armor, his dexterity of 6, or +6 even, and his suave defense feature, which lets him add another 4 to it because of his charisma. That's insane. I would genuinely, if I were running him, take that armor off. Just give him 20 AC, which is still ridiculously high in my opinion, but makes him a little more easy to hit, and therefore maybe bump up his constitution or give him more hit dice. He is the equivalent of more than a 20th level rogue, so he should have more than 19 hit dice in my opinion. So definitely even that out, because depending on the party, if they just have a bunch of spells that require like intelligence or charisma saving throws, and on average he's going to succeed, but like there still might be like some half damage there, some half damage here, and that's all going to start adding up, unless it's dexterity, because he's got the classic evasion thing. Speed's 30 feet. That's alright by me. He has legendary actions to move. That's it. Makes sense. He is nothing is below a +1. His strength is 12. I'm glad that they kind of considered maybe giving him something he wasn't so good at, full stop. Dexterity is 22, kind of makes sense for this level of a bad guy. Constitution's 14, it's fine. Intelligence is 20, makes bloody sense. Dude's old as hell and has been doing this for hundreds of years. Wisdom 16, makes sense. Charisma is 19, dude is a massive master deceiver. So, he's got proficiency in dexterity and wisdom saves. That's pretty cool to me. The proficiency in wisdom saves really helps him out. So, I like it. He's got, his skill proficiencies are quite numerous, hold on. Acrobatics, athletics, deception, persuasion, sleight of hand, and stealth, and some of those have expertise slapped on them. His deception is plus 14, his stealth is plus 16. That's crazy good, and I have no problem with that. He'll be able to sneak up on any party, no problem with his passive 26 stealth. He has dark vision, 120 feet, and can also speak Abyssal, Common, Draconic, Dwarvish, Elvish, and Undercommon. All of this makes sense to me so far, except the AC thing. Fuck that. This is the feature that... He has a lot of magic items. He has the +3 leather armor, which I would take away. You can keep that if you want. Hat of Disguise, which I mentioned earlier, allows you to cast Disguise Self at will. Bracelet of Flying Daggers, cool as shit. You get to throw out 2 daggers, and that's great paired with his legendary actions, which I'll talk about in a second. Cloak of Invisibility, don't give him that. Sure, he can have it, but that's powerful as shit. Knave's Eye Patch, that's alright. It, like, removes the sunlight sensitivity trait, so that he can be more functional in the day. Ring of Truth Telling, which is, again, there's like 4 items here that are unique to him as a person. Ring of Truth Telling just gives you advantage on insight, basically. He has a +3 rapier, no problem with that. And a portable hole. You can really get creative with this sort of stuff, and a wand of web. Portable hole is like you drop a hole in the floor and you can like put stuff in there, and then if you pick it back up and then put it down somewhere else, I think it still has the stuff in there. And then the wand of web lets you cast web a bunch of times. Web's a good spell. His hat is adorned with a feather of diatrema suffering. I definitely said that wrong. That item is worthless. He could use it as a mount, I guess, but he doesn't need to. It summons an axe beak. They're kind of cool, I guess. He has evasion, which, if you're playing D&D, you know what evasion is. If not, dexterity saving throws, you're immensely good at them. You always take at least half damage, and if you succeed, you take none. Fey Ancestry, classic, you know, good charm saves and no sleepy by time. He has innate spellcasting, like a drow, dark dancing lights, darkness, fairy fire, and levitate. It's cool. Legendary resistance, 1. That is something I love. Just a single legendary resistance. That means that this is a very strategic thing that you're going to have to use instead of just burning them all at the start of the fight. You could use this at turn 3 on something major that someone's been saving for a while. He's like, huh, Jarlaxle could have legendary saved all of those. He didn't. Dominate person! No, fuck, okay. Master Attuner. This is just a specific feature to get around the whole he's attuned to too many things thing. Well, he can attune up to 5 items, and he can also attune to the ones that the primary spellcasters can. Sneak attack! Nothing goes higher than 7d6 on the sneak attack feature, which I think is fair, because I think that's as high as it should go. So once a turn he can deal an extra 24 damage, and that's probably going to happen. He's going to get that damage most of the time. He shouldn't be fighting alone. Whenever I've had the party fight him, he's had at least 3 Drow Gunslingers with him, which really messed him up. They didn't have to fight. None of them died. He killed them all. Well, he knocked them all unconscious and then used them as a pawn in his plan. Makes sense. Suave Defense. That's the thing I told you about. You can add your AC to your armor class if you're wearing light or no armor and wielding no shield, which is ridiculous. Redonkulous for this character. Okay. Actions. He gets a 3 attack multi-attack with his +3 rapier, dealing an average of 13 damage per hit on them with a +14 to hit. That's guaranteed hits there, like, most of the time. He should be hitting at least twice out of the 3 times. With sneak attack piled onto that as well, he does a lot of damage, and then his legendary actions help with that, where his one legendary action thing is where he can just move, no opportunity attacks, and his attack gives him a single attack, which means he can either stab with the rapier, or the specific way that the braces of flying daggers work, he can throw 2 of those with 2 legendary actions, which is the main use of it, because you get to throw 2 daggers that automatically disappear once they've hit, and with him they do an average of 8 damage. That could be a good chance to get off the sneak attack that he has. So yeah, I would not recommend putting Jarlaxle up against a early level party in any way, except if he's just going to knock him out. I did that. I'd actually not done that deliberately. There was an encounter where he was jumping out and he was going to try and interrupt the Day of Wonders. The party had an even chance of defeating him because even though they were lower leveled, they had the strategic advantage from where they were. They also had a shield guardian that was protecting everything because the shield guardian was running around, and a few guards were like distracting some of the drow as well. So there was some of that stuff going on, so that basically the party was like, it's us against Jarlaxle and maybe one other guy at some times if the guards die, which they were slowly doing. But yeah, they actually failed at that, and they were routed, and Jarlaxle, one of the players went invisible, and Jarlaxle was like, I noticed one of them went invisible. Jarlaxle went looking for invisible guy because he had a hunch that he was sticking around, and he was true, and he waited for a sec until all the drow were together and then fairy fired the entire courtyard. And yeah, that's kind of how that went. In any case, use Jarlaxle at some point. I've used him as my main villain twice now, so I kind of have a bit more expertise on how he is played. He's my favourite, again. So yeah, I hope you guys will perhaps use him in the future. I'm not telling you to use him as your main villain, but certainly get him in there. In any case, thank you. We have, I believe, talked about the last villain, which means I'm now going to go on to discussing the factions and how the players can associate with them. This series is going to take a while to complete, but luckily Dragon Heist is... Once I've talked about the factions, you can run it for ages, and now all I need to do is give you specific advice about the rest of the, like, more linear side of the module, which shouldn't take as long. In any case, hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to tune into the next video, or I am going to unfortunately have to commit manslaughter. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.